Hey guys, this is the Anythingers podcast with your host Glass Bass and KCQ, where we discuss anything. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about just your run of the mill, just what we used to have back in the 90s in terms of technology, gaming, all that shit. So Glass Bass is going to start us off for this episode.
I will start with what was once a ritual that will never be repeated today ever again. And in its a way, a ritual that kids today will not understand, but I wish they do because there's a certain nostalgic, something was better about it, essentially. And by that ritual, that is the ritual of going to Blockbuster. So, back in the 90s, when I was a kid, I had a Nintendo 64. I wanted a game, but I didn't want to pay $60 for it. So what do? My dad, he takes me to Blockbuster. Does anyone even know what Blockbuster is? No. They think Netflix,
No.
but like back in the day, we had to physically get in the car and go to Blockbuster. But the exciting part about it was that it actually exciting.
Yeah, you guys with your Netflix and your Redbox, you guys had it easy because like Glass said, yeah, like there was such thing as a Blockbuster or a Hollywood movies or some shit where we'd have to rely on our parents to drive us to get our favorite movies. And they weren't always cheap. Um you spent a lot of money, buying or renting a movie that you really wanted to see with your family or your girlfriend or whatever. But like, it wasn't cheap. And like, they had like, what is it called? They had
Yeah,
popcorn and shit. It was pretty cool. Just like, since the invention of streaming, Blockbuster, Hollywood movies, any place with like a DVD, VHS kind of thing, it just died after Netflix came out and all those streaming platforms. You rarely see a DVD store unless you're in a Walmart or a Target. That doesn't really count, but just
I need to get Glass back. I need to finish my ritual, or rather, the Blockbuster ritual, so to speak. So here's the thing. I will actually be striving to go into Blockbuster. My dad would take me there, and he'd be like, oh my god, what is the newest game for my Nintendo 64? And I see Banjo-Kazooie or Mario Kart 64, and I'm like, man, I can't get these games. I can't pay $60. So back then, this was a cheap way of trying a game, or a cheap. So it would usually be like $5 or $10 to rent out these games for like 3 days or so, basically the weekend. So I go and pick up Banjo-Kazooie from Blockbuster. My dad pays for it. Well, of course, your parents pay for it, but you get the point. So yeah, and I have this game in my hand, and I'm so excited to go back and play it because you had to wait. Like nowadays, you don't have to wait for anything. You just get it, streaming or downloading. Like you just have it and right there. But back then, the waiting I'm talking about is like physical waiting. Like you had to get in a car, you had to walk in Blockbuster, get the game yourself in your physical hand, physical, and then you have to go back in the car, go back home, and then you slap that nice Banjo-Kazooie Nintendo 64 cartridge into your Nintendo 64, and you played it on your old school CRT TV. It wasn't flat screen back then, by the way. It was big, chunky TV. Oh, by the way, we didn't care about frame rates. We didn't care about resolution. Like, it wasn't even 1080p back then. It wasn't even HDMI back then. It was like composite cable. It was basically smear Vaseline compared to what we have nowadays, but we enjoyed it. We had fun. We didn't care how well the game played. Well, what I mean is, we just played the game. It was just fun. There was nothing complicated about it back then. There was no DLC. There was no loot boxes. There is no season passes. None of that existed back then. You got the game, and that was it. In a way, we actually got better gaming experience back then in that regard. Kind of sad.
I agree.
That was the blockbuster ritual, and I'm pretty sure Casey Q has a story or two about the '90s. Like, what do we have back then that kids today don't get it? Like, well, what was better?
To be fair, I didn't grow up with fancy, Segas and shit like that. I grew up with playing computer games and all of that. But I do remember when, I get a couple of friends in school who are talking about, what kind of counsel they had. Just talking about it, it made you cool or whatever, I guess. But like, I didn't really grow up with that, kind of shit. I grew up with computer games mainly. And I remember when I was a kid, Wi-Fi was not even a concept, not yet. It didn't really start evolving until I was well into middle school. And then that's where it just started blowing up. Like, Wi-Fi is in fucking McDonald's. It's in the mall. It's in your pussy. It's everywhere. And now I see that Wi-Fi has just expanded everywhere. But before that, I remember when I was a child, just a wee little lad, and we did not have a computer yet. And when my mom, she got the first computer ever in the house, and it was in the house, and she got this computer stand or whatever, and she put it in there, and she got this computer, she got a stand or whatever, and my play cousin was over at the time, and we were just really excited to hook it up and start, playing on it or whatever. But at this time, we didn't understand what computering was or how to work it. It was a very new thing, and having a computer in there was a new thing. And eventually she got it hooked up to where we could go on the internet. But internet was very different from what was now versus then. Like, back when I first had internet, you had this thing called you had to put the cord in the wall and pray to God somebody wasn't using the phone line, and therefore you could use the fucking internet. And we had broadband and all that shit. And
that was 56K modem back then. You kids and
that was your internet. That was your internet. You prayed to God that there was nobody using the phone on the other end, so you could use that internet. And you also pray to God for that person, whoever's using the phone, to not be on there as long. If they are along, you really can't stop it, because what the fuck are you gonna do? You're a kid. But me growing up, my mom talks on the phone so much, and I really couldn't control that. So it would be hours she'd be on the phone, and I couldn't go on the internet. And also, there was such thing as a AOL, which, if you remember what that is, you are a boss-ass motherfucker. Yeah, you got mail. American Online. Everybody and their mamas had it. I remember, getting the mail, and there would be an AOL disc. If anybody remembers those fucking AOL 30-day trial discs that you used to get in the mail back in the day, they weren't worth the damn. They didn't do anything. I think it was just all promotional or whatever. I don't know. But I used to get those and used to think they worked. They didn't do anything. But yeah, it was totally awful. And plus there was a password to get on the internet because, parents. But after AOL, you got Google, you had Google and shit. But I just remember growing up on AOL.
Speaking of Google wasn't even, I don't think we even had Google until 1999 or 2000, even back then. You know what?
I don't even remember using Google until much later. Like I was using AOL like for a really long time.
But now, but you think of Google nowadays, it's a giant corporation that owns Android and owns like so much of the smartphone experience that you have nowadays. Now, that's Google. What was Google back then? Even in 1999-ish, it was just a search engine. That's it. All you did was search. That's all they did. That was all what Google did. I mean, yes, there's still a search engine nowadays, but they grew so much far beyond their original idea of why they were Google, because they were a search engine, just to give you an idea.
Was there any other? What did you use the internet for growing up? GlassPass.
If GlassPass had to think about what we was growing up back then for internet, or for, if you're talking 1995 or 1996, it was basically AOL. AOL used to be considered like that was the only way to get the internet. It used to be like you got mail and you had to log on to AOL portal.
I know, but what did you go on there for? Because usually people had a reason they were going on AOL and whatever, whether it's check their email or some shit. What did you go on there?
Honestly, I was a dumb kid. All I did was look up on AOL and look at the cheat code for my games. That's all I remember, honestly. It was like, oh my god, I got a new game. I got cheat codes. And keep in mind, back in the day, these games actually had cheat codes. Nowadays, you can't really do cheat code because they don't make them into your games anymore. But like back in the day, they did. Almost every game had cheat code. So what I used to do was I used to go on AOL and I have to look up like, oh, I need a cheat code for GoldenEye. Or, oh yeah, I would get a cheat code for Big Head mode where the characters in the game will have like a head bigger than their body. That's what I did back then. I just look up like stupid cheat codes. It was one of the easiest things you can do on AOL back then.
I didn't know what a cheat code was until I was in college. I'm not even shitting you. Yeah. But like moving on from the whole AOL thing, I want to kind of talk about the kind of games that we had too. Like I said, I did not grow up on Sega and all that shit. I had friends, I had family members who had PlayStations, and I used to play that way. But it wasn't a kind of, it wasn't a trend for me to go to a GameStop and buy the latest fucking game there. If anything, I didn't really care. I had a Game Boy and I had a Game Boy SP. That were the major gaming consoles that I owned when I was a child, and I was perfectly fine with not being in that.
Started on the consoles. I had so many of them back in the day. I was spoiled. I'm not gonna lie. Like I had,
all.
yeah. So back in the day, I had Sega Genesis, and you played Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2 and 3, and Sonic and Knuckles. That thing was this shit. It was like, yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog, yes. And then I had like a Super Nintendo, and then I had like Super Mario 64, then you had like Mario Kart, then you have like all these Super Nintendo games, and then now it's like every 3 or 4 years to come out with a new console back in the 90s, like say PlayStation 1. I got a PlayStation 1. And even I got a Nintendo 64. I got all the consoles to play all my old games on back then. That was like the console war back then. It was either you had a Sega Genesis or you had a Super Nintendo, and then you had like putting on fights on over who got the best console. And nowadays that would be like Xbox or PlayStation, but back then it was Sega versus Nintendo playground fights because there wasn't really easily accessible online forums to fight about it. So instead of fighting about it on like say Discord or whatever, you go on the playground and you argue about it.
Basically, I like back then, like I used to just hear a bunch of people, mainly kids, just like, oh, I got this console, I got this one, and I'm better than you. But like, I didn't really give a shit. Like I was happy just going on my computer and popping in a DVD-ROM. If uh, you youngins probably don't know what a DVD-ROM is. Uh, man, holy shit.
I can
That's like
explain how
back in the
that
day.
worked though. Back in the day, before Steam, before any of the downloadable stuff, what you had to do was you bought so let's say nowadays you have a game on Steam and you just download it and it's ready for you, right? But back in the day, we didn't have that kind of internet infrastructure like we do now. So it's the same idea. Go to a store, buy a PC game. It comes on a DVD. Then you need to open it and get like a CD key or something. The game will not work without a key that's on the manual or whatever. So put the disc in, and you have to click next to install it directly to your computer. Then putting the CD key, then hopefully play your games. And computer technology back then was a lot more finicky than they are now. You have like driver crashes, old computer problems, and like God knows. But that
Yeah.
that was the way it was back then.
Yeah, it was crazy. I played a number of different computer games as a kid. I think one of my favorite ones was this Barbie game that, yes, I like Barbie, shut up. But like it was this Barbie game that me and my cousin used to play, and um it was just really just dumb. It was like Barbie, it was like, it was like a coloring book on the computer, and we used to like color her house and whatever and make it different colors and go shopping and all that girly shit. So that would be the main part of my computering gameage as a child until I started playing more mature things like Sims and Pirates and all that shit, which is awesome, by the way. So if you play like fucking Zoo Tycoon, you are amazing because I loved Zoo Tycoon. I just loved any simulation game growing up. I could play them for hours.
Speaking of which, if you were playing Roller Coaster Tycoon back then, the games they had on PC back then was more like stuff like shooters. But keep this in mind, we're not talking Fortnite. We're not talking Call of Duty. No, 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 no. It wasn't even any of that stuff. Back in the day, we had a game called Quake 2. So, and there was no reloading. No. There was no aiming down the sight. No. None of that fancy stuff. All you did was move around the map really fast, pick up all the weapons, shoot all the bad guys as fast as you can, and it was simple and to the point. Honestly, Quake 2 was basically the best thing they had back then. That's what we did. Nothing complicated.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I kind of want to touch on not just like games, like computer games or whatever. Also phones. Phones. What kind of phone did you have growing up? What was your first real phone?
If I had to remember, actually, that's funny you asked me that because I don't really remember smartphones, honestly.
Because I know in this day and era, kids, you could be 5 years old and you have the newest iPhone, and I will never understand that for the life of me. What is a 5-year-old going to do with the iPhone? Um,
Well,
that's weird.
yeah, I feel bad about that part. I don't. Well, are we gonna talk about that part where why they have phones that early?
Well, no, I don't want to get into that too much, like why they have it that early. I think it's parents just, wanting to be cool and wanting to give their kids everything and spoiling the fuck out of them when they're 5 and they don't need an iPhone or the newest technology because they're 5 and they should be going and playing with balls or whatever 5-year-olds do, like I did. So yeah, I just want to kind of talk about like what kind of phones we had and versus like now the whole phone era, like everybody's on their phone now. Like, what kind of phone did you have? Like,
It was
what was your
if
first
you
real
ask
phone?
me, it was Nokia's. Everyone like if you think iPhone was like, oh my god, the best thing ever in the
Oh my
house,
god, I
it
remember
wasn't.
Nokia's.
It was much more Nokia back then. Like all you had
Oh,
was
fuck.
a Nokia 3310, the brick. It was the most toughest phone on the market. You can drop it. The thing lasted for like a 2 week. It had actual battery life. Keep that in mind. Yeah, we actually had battery life on these Nokia phones, but like we didn't have internet. Not in the way that you think of it. We just used it to call. We just used it to text, and the texting was incredibly slow. It was like this weird texting method where you had to press one button 3 times in order to get a letter or something like that.
Yeah, because like yeah, like you press like one and on the one button it would have ABC and then it would have like symbols and shit. So you have a pound sign and you have like a hyphen or some shit on the one button, and then you'd have to do it like that, for a while. Phones were like that for a really long time until until they started having touch screens. That just changed the fucking game. You had a touchscreen phone, you were fucking the shit. You were like, holy
Hmm.
damn.
Phones back then, they were all buttons. The mortgage upper end of your phone back then was buttons, and more buttons before touchscreen was arguably it wasn't, by the way, it wasn't Apple that introduced touchscreen. A different company did it. It's just because that Apple just happened to have the mind share. So everyone thinks they get it first, but technically speaking, they didn't get it first. But that's a story for another day. But yeah. So anyway, before touchscreen phones in general, you had to use buttons for everything. You had to use arrow keys on the thing to go navigate the phone screen. And phone screen back then, they were like, okay, so like we have 6-inch phone nowadays. We're talking more like 2-inch screens back then. We're talking more like 1-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch screens back then. They were tiny. They were tiny. The resolution was
They were really tiny.
yeah, and it wasn't even some phone wasn't even color. They were more like
No.
monoscale. It was more like it was like a grab gray or green monoscale. And the best game we had on phones back then was Snake. Snake was
I
so
mean, like, I remember Snake, but I'm talking about, like, what was your first phone? Because, like, my first phone, it was this black phone. It was like a flip phone or whatever. And this is before, pay attention, kiddies, but this is before, the App Store and before the Apple Store and before free apps and all that shit. So if you wanted a game on your phone, you have to pay for it, and
I mean,
um,
technically,
I
you do pay for it, but wait a minute.
no no
Some
no no no. I'm not talking about now. You If you download and pay for a game on your phone, it's probably gonna be it's gonna be good because like it's good. It's on your like your nice smartphone or whatever. So the quality is gonna be much better. I'm talking about before app stores, before they had free app stores, they had a thing where you have to buy the actual phone game on your phone. Or I don't know if it was like that for everyone, but I know when I did it, I I I I jacked up my mom's phone bill to almost $600, and I was in trouble, and I couldn't use my phone ever again, or not ever again, but like I could only like she like took away like my data or shit, and I could only text and call and shit, so it was pretty nuts. But yeah, it was this black flip phone, and whenever you closed it, it would have the time and the date on the front displayed, and it was like blue lettering, and I thought it was pretty cool. But like everybody and their moms at my school had a touchscreen phone. I remember touchscreen phones were just coming out, and everybody had a fucking Sidekick. If you don't know what a Sidekick is, man, it was the best phone ever in 2007.
And
everybody had one, and I didn't.
That was the Motorola's sidekick. If I recall, Motorola made that phone, and Motorola was like,
Sidekick was the best, goddamn, coolest fucking phone ever, and I couldn't have one because we didn't have T-Mobile, and I remember that sidekicks were with T-Mobile, and this was back when. I mean, I don't think this is before you could like change your plan and do all that shit. But like, yeah, it was just unfair. I didn't have T-Mobile. I had fucking Metro PCS for a couple of years, and they sucked. Like they suck so hard.
Don't even get me started on my first phone. It memory even served me right. It was the same phone you had. I'm pretty sure it had a color screen now, but it wasn't Android. It wasn't iOS. It wasn't any of that. It was Symbian OS. It was an operating system that was developed mainly for feature phones. They're not smart. So you only had like 9 apps on this menu. It was this grid menu. You only had like 9 apps: call, messaging, and contact list, and what else? Oh yeah, and you had games, but like you had to get it. Yeah, like I said, games back then, you had to get it through a stupid exclusive listing only on that phone, and you had to pay for it. It wasn't like
I remember that. There was no app store. You weren't getting it for free. There was none of that.
Yeah, needless to say, and the internet browsing experience wasn't all that great. Like you technically could go on the internet and these things, but it's nowhere. It's not even. It was so slow. Obviously, it was slow, and you would get like pistols and weird bosses. It wasn't even like the actual website. It wasn't even like the website that you get on a desktop. It was just a mess. It was just not usable. It's not.
Yeah, they like now when you go to a website on your phone now, usually that website on your phone is going to be formatted to fit your actual phone, and they have a mobile version, and then they have a more full version meant to go on your computer or whatever. But back then, when the internet was on the phone, you'd get this shitty fucking, it'd be the whole goddamn site, and you'd have to like scroll up and scroll down just to find the fucking search bar, because it would just be terrible. The formatting would just be off. It didn't. I don't think it was well formatted for phones. Now it is, duh. But like back then, it was just absolutely terrible, just so bad, awful.
It was essentially sticking a desktop interface on a phone, where in that case that means you were scrolling left and right, up and down, left and right, up and down. You were zoomed in on the desktop website.
Yeah. And it wasn't even a desktop. It was just like, that was your browser. There was no like mobile version. Nobody knew what the fuck that was. It was just like, that's the site. Use it.
It wasn't even, good God, it wasn't even a thing. Yes, and calling quality was about the same. Wasn't even any difference in calling quality testing. Wait, how do we test?
I wouldn't know. Honestly, I don't like to call people. That's just you. But like, I don't like to call people at all. I don't call people if it's something that they need, or if it's a professional call. I still don't like it. But like, call quality was way better than actual texting. I also remember having minutes and being to where like I couldn't text anybody before 6. Like after 6 it would be free, but before that, like it would be free. Like after 6 it's like, all right, just text me all you want. Awesome. Hey, I didn't have a lot of people to text me though.
Back then,
abysmal.
well, Here's the thing. Nowadays, on our phones, we have unlimited texting, unlimited calling, but you guess what's limited? The data is limited. Like, not all data plan is unlimited. It was 10 gigabyte a month or something like that, at least in my case. But back then, they would give you unlimited data because they're like, what do you do with the data? The data technology back then wasn't even that, was so crap that you like might as well not do anything with it. Whereas the texting and the calling is much more required back then, so they tend to put a limit on that. They used to. But nowadays, data is a lot more important, so they do it that instead.
Yeah. Definitely like the technology now versus back then, because there wasn't a lot, but like I'm not completely hating on it because it's something that we were just surrounded by. And it was just something we grew up on, and yeah, it
However,
was great.
there is one more thing I would like to mention. Those old phones back then, all those old phones back then, at least they had a headphone jack. At least they had a headphone jack. Your modern
Yeah.
iPhones, they took it out. And now what?
And that is why I refuse to. As soon as the iPhone 7 dropped, I think it was a year or two ago, because now it's like iPhone 6S or something. The new iPhone's about to launch, and it looks fucking stupid. But I remember I had my iPhone 6S Plus. It was pretty big, and shortly after that, then the iPhone 7 came out, and they announced that this iPhone 7 would not have the headphone jack. And the headphone jack was no longer, it was no longer going to be on there. And I remember when the headphone jack on the iPhone used to be on the top, like,
Yeah.
and it would be way easier to listen to your music. When I had my iPhone 6S Plus, which is the last iPhone with the headphone jack, it was on the bottom, and it was totally terrible because you just like put it in your pocket and it just like come out or something. It was totally stupid. But like at least it had the headphone jack. Like none of the iPhones will ever have a headphone jack ever again.
Actually, no. They're still making with headphone jack. You just have to look for them.
What?
Well, I mean, not Apple.
They're not. They're not.
No,
Not Apple.
I don't mean Apple. I'm talking more like Android.
Oh no, Android still puts headphone jacks on their phones because why wouldn't you? They know that people want to listen to the music.
Actually, you would be surprised. There's like a lot of Android phones out there without headphone jacks. You'll be surprised.
I wouldn't be in support of them because I am fully supported. I am fully support a headphone jack. It's way easier. You just get some little earphones or whatever. They're inexpensive if you know where to look,
and
then that's it.
Yeah, I may want to mention what you are doing by taking away the headphone jack. You know what happens? The most common thing that people used to be able to do is like charging and listening with headset at the same time. You can't do that anymore.
And because I remember iPhones. My first iPhone was the iPhone 5, and the little earphones used to come with the phone, and Apple was known for that. Apple was known to include little earphones or whatever, and they'd be really good quality. But if you fuck them up, if you mess them up in any kind of way, you're looking to spend another $30 on paying for another pair, which was, not everybody has, money, like $30 to blow all the time, every time you fucking lose your lose your Apple Buds or whatever. But I don't think they have that anymore. And when you buy an iPhone, they don't have the earphones anymore. There's an adapter or some shit. I don't know exactly how it works. I think it's pretty dumb. Earpods, if they call them. It just
AirPods,
it looks stupid.
AirPods. Who the hell knows? They call them Pod these days. It's a version. It's a variant.
Yeah, and they're looking for you to spend, like, after you spend, probably $800 to $1,000 on your iPhone, they want you to spend another 50 or so on this dumb adapter, ear pods, whatever the fuck. And, God only knows what else kind of accessories for your iPhone.
And here, this happens on the Android side too, as well, especially with Android. All right, let me mention what happened. So they tried doing USB Type C adapters, and here's the problem. You have these Type C adapters, right, on the phones that don't have headphone jack. You try using it in another phone, it doesn't work. This adapter that works with this phone doesn't work with this Android phone, even though they're both Android. You see where this is going?
Yeah.
You're just creating more issues. You're just creating more problems. In other words, what was the point of removing the headphone jack? You have no valid replacement. You literally, seriously, there is no good future actual valid replacement for a headphone jack. There isn't. So what you're doing by taking away, all you're doing is inconveniencing, making the customer's life a little bit more pain in the butt. Seriously, you're just making it worse by taking away what was once a granted feature. For what? The question is, for what? And I'm going to tell you why they're doing this, at least in my opinion. They're doing this because they have gross margin on these dongles. Those dongles you pay like $30 for, $20 for, it only costs them like 50 cents to make or $1 to make. So think of a margin they make by taking away the headphone port and making you buy a dongle. Now they make ridiculous amount of money on every dongle for people buying it, or at least for people who doesn't realize how stupid this looks.
What's a dongle?
How you plug a 3.5mm jack phone into a phone that doesn't have a jack. A dongle is an adapter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm technologically stupid when it comes to this. That's why he's a techie and I'm just not, because I had no idea what the fuck that was. But yeah.
Someone out there will understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. If you understand what the hell he's talking about, then you will enjoy this. Congratulations. All right. Well, we have a couple more minutes left, and I kind of wanted to go into talking about TVs in the last couple of minutes.
TVs were good.
TVs.
We had good old fat TLC TVs.
I think we had pretty good TVs. They weren't like fucking flat inch, TVs go on the internet kind of shit. That's what TVs are doing now. But I thought we had pretty good TVs. And I also remember a little thing called a VHS DVD TV combo. If you know what I'm talking about, peeps out there, I had one of those. And this TV, like, it was a holy grail of TVs, because if you get a TV back then, you were either, getting the TV, the DVD, and the VH Plus player, and that would all be separate. But when they came out with the TVs with all of that shit combined in one TV, man, it was fucking awesome. You don't have to buy a separate DVD. You don't have to buy another VHS. It's all in one fucking TV. And it was great. And like you were cool if you had one of those. I did. It was fucking awesome. I still have one.
A TV with a built-in PS2. Yeah, they did make a TV with like a built-in PS2. That's even better, if probably an option.
Wait, there's a TV with the built-in PS2? Where?
I'll show you later, but yeah, that does exist, and so does exist a GameCube variant as well.
What the fuck?
I'm not kidding.
What era did you grow up in? I'm sorry. I didn't have that. What the fuck? I gotta look up that. I gotta look that shit up later. What?
Yeah.
They had DVD. Okay. You're telling me that they had a TV with a GameCube feature in it. What in the actual fuck?
Yes, they had a TV with a built-in PlayStation 2, yes. Or a GameCube, yes.
Okay. That is actually kind of amazing.
Yep.
That is great. I wish I would have got on that wagon a while ago because I did not know that existed. Do you remember it was this stupid thing? There was a lot of companies that were trying to mimic PlayStation, I remember, and they had this plug-in game console, TV console. It wouldn't be like it wouldn't be like a PlayStation where it would be like $200 or whatever. This thing you can literally get at a store for maybe $20.
Oh,
Bring it home, make the kids
yeah.
happy.
They do that.
Make the kids happy for Christmas.
Some of them was like, they put in a toy emulator in the thing. They sell it for $20, and they'd be like, "Oh my god, I'm playing Centipede, I'm playing Asteroid on this piece of crap TV console plugged into your TV, and it was crap. It's not a real Atari Swing Atomic for one thing. It's an emulating piece of crap.
It was a piece of shit, really. I remember my uncle got one for me and my cousin. We were playing it in my living room, and it was this one game on there. It was called Duck Hunter. It was so shitty. It kept
Duck
stopping.
Hunter? No, please play How you play Duck Hunter? Go on.
So the object of the game is you have a shotgun, and basically the ducks are the targets, and then from there it's pretty self-explanatory. You shoot the ducks because the ducks are targets or some shit. But because the thing was so shitty and it was really cheap, the game would always stop, and it was just so bad. It was such a bad game. And I think we had a bootleg Pac-Man. It wasn't even a real Pac-Man. It was bootleg. I think it was like Shack-Man.
Shack-Man? Wait, hold on.
Shack-Man.
What?
It was Shack-Man. Because well, obviously, you need it's copyright. You got to have permission to do that shit. Pac-Man copyrighted, but they had Shack-Man. They just ripped off a bunch of games and put it on this really shitty TV console set. And I think Duck Hunter was probably one of my favorite games on there. The rest I didn't really remember.
I remember having a really cheap Duck Hunter set. Keep in mind, this memory is kind of really old. I remember it was this Duck Hunt. It's not Nintendo Duck Hunt. Keep in mind, this is more like a projector. It was this projector, and you spread it against a wall, and you have this crappy gun that feel like it's gonna fall apart in your hand, and you shoot at a projector. No, it was like a projection of ducks flying across the wall. It wasn't even a screen. It was a projector. It was just. I don't know how to explain it. It was just a cheap piece of crap, and you're better off getting like an old Nintendo and a copy of Duck Hunt. I'm kidding. No, I'm serious.
I mean, I think it was something to hold the kids off until Christmas. When you bought an actual nice console for them, I think it was just something to hold them off, or just a cheap option for parents because they don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on a console for their kids. That's most parents think that way. We're like, do I want to spend $100 or more on my child to play games all day? Nah, I'm gonna get this cheap run-of-the-mill $20 TV thing, and they'll be just as happy.
Yeah,
and I wasn't.
They do that, but your kids are not stupid. Your kids know what they want, and if you buy them a ripoff, the kids will know. They're not stupid. I mean, some kids. I'm saying the kids, they know what they want. They're not stupid.
I also wanted to touch on how you listen to music in your day, because when I was a kid, I used to have CD players. I had a cassette player, but I didn't really have it for a long time. and it wasn't mine. But like I had a CD player. Like I grew up with CD players. I didn't have an iPod till I was in high school. So like people out there with like iPods, I'm jealous of you. Like I didn't have an iPod, and the one that I had was a touchscreen iPod. So last what kind of music shit did you listen to? Like how did you listen to your music?
CD player. There was no CD players back then, but
Yeah,
I had a pretty crappy PC back then. It was like some old Pentium 3 computer. It was like Windows 98 or something. But yeah, I remember.
Oh god.
Yeah, very old PC stuff back then. But CD player gigs, yes, they did. But you had to even the internet kind of barely worked back then. So yeah, you could use an app called Napster, and you can pirate the movie. You can pirate music tracks. You get them, then you use the software to burn them into a CD track, and then there you go.
Oh man.
That's what I did.
I didn't use Napster. I remember Napster, but like I would just hear people just say like, you know, bad things about Napster. I never really pirated anything till I got in college. I didn't do anything till I was in college. I was shielded from the world. But I had CD players and shit. I remember LimeWire. LimeWire was the shit, and I had a couple of friends burn me some CDs back in the day, and it would be pretty cool. LimeWire, you know, stopped being a thing, and they shut off and they shut down.
LimeWire kind of just fell apart. What really goes on nowadays is stuff like we have different torrent clients. What we have nowadays, we have BitTorrent, which serves as a base for many torrent clients like out there, like uTorrent, Gilu's, whatever. Basically, you have torrent clients everywhere, and you go to Pirate Bay, click on the magnet link, then you pirate it. But basically, yes, we have modern torrenting, so to speak.
Mm. Good times, good times.
I will have to admit. Well, one more thing I would like to say is about the whole 90s. Yeah, sure, it wasn't convenient as we have it nowadays, but in a way, it was better. Maybe we're old, but we're just getting the feeling that, like, we had something better. We had something that was...
I do think that, yeah, it's convenient nowadays. I don't think it was better. I think we're just old, and the oldest generation's always going to think the newest generation is going to be shitty. Like, your technology is not good, you know, you're fucking shit, you know, your music is shit, all this. But, like, for the most part, even though it wasn't as convenient as now, it was simple, and it was just really cool to have. And I don't think it's appreciated
actually
as much.
I remember what was better about video game console back then versus now. Oh, I'll tell you what's better. Now I know. This is what's better. So, say for example, you have like a PlayStation 4, right? So, this actually happened, by the way. Listen to me. So, what happened was you bought, let's say, a game like Tony. Okay, what was it? I was playing. So, you bought, let's say, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5. You think you would have like the whole game on there? You think so, right? You put it into the PS4, and guess what? You can't play the game. You have to wait like 2 hours for that to be downloaded, because what happened was they didn't actually ship the whole game on the disc that you just bought. They didn't. Every time you put that disc in, you have to get the whole game off the server. So, now compare that to a Nintendo 64 where you got the cartridge. It was the whole game. You have the whole game in a cartridge. You put it in, boot it up, it was done. You don't even have that luxury anymore with consoles nowadays. It's just gone. They
I remember the cartridges; those were amazing, even though they were
the
really annoying to blow on.
yes, but the point was, at least you had a whole game in your hand. At least you have it. It's not like nowadays where you put it in all of a sudden you can't play the game because the patch has to be downloaded and you have to wait like 30 minutes. It's not.
I
It's
think it's going to be something in the future where you don't even need a console anymore. You're just going to upload your video games into your retinas, and then that's it. There you go. There's your video game.
if you mean the cloud.
But yeah, the cloud in your eyes. Ew, could you imagine that? That'd be kind of gross. But
No.
yeah, but it looks like we are out of time for the podcast, so we're gonna wrap it up. And any last words before we go, Mr. Bass?
I'll say this: the '90s may not be convenient, but we had a better time overall. And that's all I'm gonna say. Sorry. And now it's a now that's a glass bat signing off, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
All right, these rule. Fuck you. I mean, I'm sorry. I love you. Bye.